You know that specific kind of silence that happens at a dinner party when someone says something? Just incredibly awkward.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. The forks hitting the plate, silent, where everyone suddenly finds the pattern on the tablecloth. Absolutely fascinating.
Exactly. That specific cringe-inducing silence. Now, imagine that silence, but amplify it across a room of like 3,000 people in tuxedos and then broadcast it 10 million sitting on their couch.
You are talking about award season. There's no other place for that level of public awkwardness.
I am 100% talking about awards because we have this fascinating stack of notes today. And honestly, they paint a pretty brutal picture of the modern celebrity. The source material we're digging into is a critique from a YouTube channel called World Class Bullshitters, which, fair warning to you, is exactly as blunt as the name implies.
It is not a subtle breakdown. I went through the source video, and subtle is definitely not the word I would use, but insightful. Absolutely. It really, it gets to the heart of the matter.
Right. The video is titled Celebrities Need to Shut Up. And while that sounds like just a rant, and okay, it is a bit of a rant, it's also a really sophisticated argument about the economy of attention. It's arguing that we've crossed a line.
Yeah, it's more than a rant. It creates a framework for understanding why the relationship between the fan and the star feels so strained right now. I mean, the source argues that we're moving past "I don't like this actor" and into something much bigger.
Bigger how?
Into the entire social contract between fame and the public is broken.
Wow. Okay, so that's a big claim. The whole contract is broken?
It's a huge claim, but they back it up.
So the mission for us today isn't just to bash celebrities, let's be clear on that. It's to figure out why this shift happened. Why did we go from "I love your movie" to "please stop lecturing me about cows"?
Right, the infamous cow lecture. We'll get to that.
And we need to unpack this concept the source introduces called rented fame, which I think is going to change how I look at every red carpet from now on.
Rented fame is the economic backbone of this whole discussion. It's crucial. But before we get to the economics, we have to look at the inciting incident, you know?
Yeah.
The place where this all plays out.
The award show itself.
Exactly. And the source uses the Grammy Awards as the perfect case study for this cultural shift.
It's a great starting point because the Grammys used to have a very specific meaning. If you look back 20, maybe 30 years ago, what did winning a Grammy signify?
It was a validation of craft.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. It meant that a group of your peers, musicians, producers, engineers, listened to your work and said, this is excellent.
It was about the art.
Totally. It was about the audio, it was about the melody, the production, the vocal performance. It was an industry nod. Like, hey, nice job on that snare drum sound, or that vocal harmony was perfect.
It was insiders appreciating the work of other insiders.
Yes, but the source argues that the definition has fundamentally shifted. The award itself, the little gold gramophone, is almost secondary. The real prize isn't the trophy.
It's the 60 seconds of airtime you get after.
It's the platform. That's the real prize. The source argues that winning a Grammy is now essentially being handed a microphone to lecture millions of strangers on how they should live their lives. It's a pivot from celebrating art to issuing instruction.
That is a heavy pivot. I mean, it's going from "thank you so much for listening to my song" to "here is how you should vote, here is what you should eat, and by the way, here is why you are morally deficient if you disagree with it."
And the source makes a very specific, somewhat stinging observation right out of the gate regarding this dynamic. They ask a question that's actually really hard to answer.
What's the question?
Why is the best source for geopolitical wisdom a pop star who hasn't paid for her own groceries in years?
Ouch. I mean, that's harsh, but it gets to the core tension, doesn't it? It really does.
It cuts right through the glamour. The source is highlighting a belief that seems to be held by the entertainment industry, that fame equates to expertise, that because you can hit a high note or cry on cue or write a catchy bridge, you are therefore a cultural authority.
It's the halo effect, right? If you're good at one thing, people just assume you're good at everything else. But the source doesn't call it that. They call it the credibility crisis.
And they describe these award shows as having drifted into becoming lecture circles. I mean, think about that phrase for a second. A lecture implies a hierarchy.
Right. I am the professor, you are the student. I know, you learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when I buy an album or when I turn on Spotify, I'm not signing up for a class. I'm not looking for homework.
That is the problem statement of this entire deep dive. The source argues that listeners buy albums for mood, they buy them for escape, they buy them to feel understood in their own heartbreak or to get hyped up for a workout.
They do not buy albums to receive civic lessons. The transaction is for entertainment, not education.
So let's look at how this actually manifests. Because it's not just a vague feeling. The source outlines a very, very predictable pattern that these shows follow.
It's almost a template, you know? If you watch the Oscars or the Grammys closely, you can actually see the structure. Step 1, accept the award. You get up there, you look shocked.
Step 2, thank the team, your manager, your mom, God, the producer, the
No.
list.
And then step 3, the pivot.
Pivot is where the energy in the speech completely changed.
It is. The source argues that for the modern celebrity, an acceptance speech now feels incomplete without a moral attachment. It's as if they feel guilty just accepting an award for their art. They have to justify their presence by, I don't know, saving the world in under 2 minutes.
The trophy becomes secondary to the message.
Completely. And the source gives us 2 really vivid case studies here to illustrate this. The first one is Billie Eilish.
Okay, and I want to be clear, Billie Eilish is a massive talent. People love the music. This isn't a critique of her as an artist.
And that's key to the source's argument. People tuned in because they love the art. But the source critiques the moment she won a Grammy and immediately used that spotlight for slogan.
Right, I remember this. She started talking about immigration, she talked about stolen land, and then she launched a pretty blunt attack on a federal...
Right. And here's where we have to be nuanced, just like the sources. They aren't necessarily debating the validity of her political stance. You might agree with her 100%. You might disagree. That's not the point.
The critique is about something else.
It's about the lane stepped in, the bait and switch.
The bait and switch. I like that. So the audience came for one...
They came for music. The source argued that nobody puts on a Billie Eilish album expecting a lecture on federal agency policy or historical land dispute. When you go to a concert or watch a music awards show, there's an implicit agreement that this is about music. When you pivot to hard politics, you're stepping into a lane that the source describes as already very crowded.
It's like ordering a pizza and finding a pamphlet on zoning laws inside the box. I mean, even if I care about zoning laws, that's not what I ordered. I just wanted dinner.
That is a perfect analogy. You came for the pepperoni, not the policy paper. And the source points out that because this happens so often, she isn't an exception. She's just part of this ecosystem where the speech is now competing with the work.
But if we want to talk about the speech competing with the work, or maybe even completely overshadowing it, we have to talk about Joaquin Phoenix.
The Joker. Oh boy, the Joker speech.
That was the second case study, and honestly, this one felt like a fever dream when I watched it live. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
The context is so crucial here. Joaquin Phoenix was the first living man to win an Oscar for playing the Joker. Heath Ledger won posthumously, which is this tragic, legendary moment. But Phoenix, he carried a billion-dollar movie on his back. It was a massive cultural event.
The anticipation for his speech was sky high. Everyone wanted to hear from the man who embodied that level of chaos. We wanted to hear about the process, the role.
We wanted the artist's perspective.
Yeah.
And instead, we got a very, very detailed breakdown of dairy farming practice.
I remember sitting on my couch just thinking, is this happening? Are we really talking about this right now?
The source highlights this so specifically. He started with climate change and social justice, which is standard Hollywood fare. But then he really drilled down. He started talking about the mechanics of cows being artificially inseminated.
At the Academy Awards.
At the Oscars.
Yeah.
While wearing a tuxedo. He talked about humans stealing the baby calf just so we can take the milk for our coffee.
It's quite an image for a black tie event, isn't it? I mean, you've got people there drinking champagne, wearing $10,000 dress, and he's describing bovine obstetrics.
It's completely surreal. And the source describes the tone of the speech as less of an acceptance speech and more of a deranged manifesto.
Deranged manifesto. That is a strong label.
It is. But you have to look at the reaction. This is where the source draws a really important line between the room and the world.
Okay, explain that.
In the room. In the auditorium. Applause. People were nodding serious. It was total validation from his peers.
They loved it. They thought it was brave.
They loved it. But online.
Yeah.
In the real world, the internet immediately filled with jokes. It became a meme within minutes. The disconnect was huge.
So why the disconnect? Why did one group see it as profound and the other as bizarre?
Because the average viewer at home felt confused. They tuned in to celebrate a film, a performance they loved. Instead, the source argues, they were being guilted about their grocery store choices by a multimillionaire.
It felt like he was scolding us from on high.
That's the word the source uses, scolding. The tone wasn't, here's my personal journey to veganism and what I've learned. It sounded like, you are all doing it wrong and I am here to correct you. It sounded like instruction.
And the industry makes a fatal error here.
A huge one. They mistake the applause in the auditorium for agreement from the general public.
But the public isn't clapping. They just feel talked at.
And when you feel talked at, you feel condescended to. Which leads us perfectly into the next segment of the source's argument, the qualification trap.
Right, this goes right back to that groceries comment from the beginning. The source is really challenging this core idea that fame equals...
It's a challenge we rarely see in mainstream media, which is what makes this source so... The industry operates as if having a hit record automatically turns an artist into a cultural authority. If you can act, you must understand complex economics. If you can sing, You must be an expert on climate.
But the reality, according to the source, is that the celebrity lifestyle is the worst possible prep for understanding the average.
It's the absolute worst.
Yeah.
Their lived experience is so vastly different. The source notes that most of these people live in a bubble where they haven't paid for their own groceries or pumped their own gas or worried about their rent in years, maybe decades.
So their expertise on daily struggles is theoretical at best. It's not grounded in reality.
Exactly. Now, you would think that being lectured by someone who is so clearly out of touch would make people furious. And sometimes it does. But the source argues that for a lot of people, the primary emotion isn't rage, it's boredom.
And that's maybe even more dangerous for a celebrity.
Much more dangerous. This is what the source calls the Robert De Niro effect.
De Niro is a legend. I mean, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, he's an icon. But the source argues his public image has shifted dramatically.
It's become predictable. The source notes that De Niro has turned almost every recent public appearance, every award show, every interview into a blunt political moment. It's usually a jab, a slogan, or a pretty direct insult aimed at specific political figures.
And the room always cheers, every single time.
The room goes wild. But the source argues that for the viewer at home, this lacks courage.
Now, hold on. Let me push back on that a bit. Isn't speaking your mind in public an act of courage? I mean, he's risking alienating part of his audience.
Is he, though? That's the question the source poses. In that room, in that industry, he is saying exactly what everyone in his social and professional circle wants to hear. It feels less like a brave stand and more like part of the act.
So it's safe. There's no real risk involved.
There's no risk in bashing a target that everyone else in your echo chamber already hates. The source argues real courage would be standing up in that room and saying something that his peers didn't want to hear.
So it's performative. It's clapping for yourself and your friends.
It is. And because every appearance now includes the same type of jab, the shock value is completely gone. It's faded into a dull routine.
So the audience at home isn't throwing their remote at the TV in anger. They're just rolling their eyes and changing.
Exactly. The source actually quotes online reactions like, oh, here comes a speech, or just get on with it. It's resignation. It's fatigue. They feel talked at, not entertained. And when you feel talked at repeatedly by the same people, tune out.
Being boring is a cardinal sin, but there's something that makes people angrier, and that is the perception.
This is segment 3 in our notes, and I think this is the emotional core of the source's entire argument. This is where it gets personal for the audience. This is VIP reality versus actual reality.
The credibility gap.
It's the concept of the buffer. The source explains that celebrity lives are buffered by money, influence, and security. They are insulated. They don't worry about the price of eggs or gas. They don't have to deal with the real-world consequences of the policies they...
So when they advocate for something that might raise the cost of living for everyone else, or change zoning laws, or affect public safety, they aren't the ones who will feel the pinch. Their lives...
Not at all.
Yeah.
And the source lists these specific examples of double standards that just drive audiences crazy. The most famous one, of course, is the private.
Oh, the climate change fly private classic.
It is the ultimate example. You have a star flying on a private jet, which creates a massive carbon footprint, far more than any average person creates in an entire year, landing, getting into a convoy of SUVs, and then giving a speech telling the audience to stop using plastic straws to save them.
It's the rules for thee, but not for me vibe.
Yeah.
It's so blatant.
Or the millionaire with 5 homes preaching to everyone else about housing fairness and the need for affordable housing. Or the celebrity living behind massive gates with a team of armed security guards, dismissing the safety concerns of average citizens as exaggerated.
The source puts it so well. The message is often about sacrifice, but the sacrifice is always meant for someone else, not for them.
And that is where the resentment builds. It's not just, I disagree with your politics. It's, you are asking me to do something that you are completely unwilling to do yourself. It feels deeply unfair.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because the source goes after Meryl Streep pretty hard in this section. And Streep is, well, the gold standard of act. When she gets up at the Golden Globes and gives a speech about power and dignity, the room is in tears. She's framed as the moral voice of the industry.
She is.
So is the source really saying that she isn't qualified to speak on morality? That seems like a stretch.
That is exactly what the source is saying. And this is where the deep dive aspect of what we do really matters, because you have to look at the specific history the source is citing to understand the audience's anger. It's not about her talent. Nobody questions her talent. It's about her history with Roman Polanski.
Right. I feel like a lot of our listeners might not know, or maybe might have forgotten the details there. I mean, it's been decades.
It has. But the source argues that memory is the enemy of hypocrisy, and the internet has a very long memory. So Let's look at the context the source provides. In the 1970s, the director, Roman Polanski, pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. That is the legal charge he pleaded guilty to.
With a child?
Yes. And after pleading guilty, he fled the United States to avoid his sentencing and potential prison time. He has been a fugitive from U.S. law ever since. That's the undisputed record.
Okay, so that's the background. What is Meryl Streep's involvement in?
The source points out that for years, there was a petition circulating within the industry, a very famous petition, that asked for leniency and forgiveness for him. It basically framed his art as being more important than his crime. And the source points out that Meryl Streep signed that petition.
She signed a petition asking for forgiveness for a man who pleaded guilty to that crime and then fled justice.
Yes, and this is where the tension explodes for the audience. The source's argument is this: you cannot stand on a podium and lecture the average plumber or teacher in Ohio about the nuances of respecting women or the abuse of power when you have put your signature on a document excusing a man who admitted to abusing a child, all because he makes good movies.
It's the inconsistency, the moral inconsistency.
It's the selectivity. The source has this great line. It's something like, skepticism doesn't come from cruelty, it comes from memory.
Wow, that's a heavy line. Skepticism comes from memory.
It means the audience isn't being mean for the sake of being mean. They just have access to Google.
Right.
They remember these things. And when the VIP reality allows you to overlook a serious crime because the perpetrator is a genius director, but then you turn around and scold the general public for their much smaller moral failing, the credibility just evaporates.
It creates a barrier.
A barrier that no amount of eloquence or tearful delivery can break through. It seems like the audience is just saying, clean your own house before you knock on my door.
Precisely. And this leads us to the broader mechanics of how this all works. So we've talked about the speeches, the boredom, and the hypocrisy. But segment 4 covers the concept, the economics of attention.
Yes, this is where it stops being about feelings and starts being about business.
This is the part of the notes that really stuck. The source makes the statement that I think should be framed in every agency office in Los Angeles. Fame is rented from the public, and the public can stop paying attention whenever.
This brings us to what I think is the intellectual core of the source's argument. It's the economics of rented fame.
I loved this concept. Break it down for us. How is fame rented?
Okay, think about it like a realist. In the old days, let's say the 1990s, celebrities effectively owned the building. They had a monopoly. There were only 3 or 4 major TV channels, the big movie studios, and the radio station.
They controlled the means of distribution?
Completely. If you wanted to be entertained, you had to go to them. They were the landlords, and your attention was the guaranteed rent. You have very few other places to go.
Right. I couldn't just pull up TikTok or 1,000 YouTube channels. I had to watch what was on NBC or go to the cinema. That scarcity gave them immense power.
Exactly. But the source argues the market is completely flipped. The supply of entertainment is now infinite. You have YouTube, podcasts, Twitch streamers, indie video games, social media creators. The scarcity that gave them their power is gone.
So the celebrity is no longer the landlord.
No, you are the landlord now. The audience holds the property, which is their limited attention span, and the celebrity is just a tenant, renting a few minutes of that attention from you.
And like any tenant, if they break the rules,
they can be evicted. This is what the source calls the quiet exit. And this is such a crucial insight for anyone interested in media today. We used to think that if a celebrity did something annoying, people would protest, they'd write angry letters, they'd organize boycotts.
Which, ironically, is actually great for the celebrity because it's still attention. Anger is a form of engagement.
Precisely. If I hate watch your show, I'm still watching your show. The advertisers don't care why. But the source argues that the new danger isn't anger. It's indifference. It's the switching cost.
Switching cost? What do you mean by that?
It's an economic term. In 1990, if I rented a movie from Blockbuster and I didn't like the politics of the lead actor, I was kind of stuck with it. I already paid my $3. I'm on the couch. The switching cost of getting up, driving back to the store, and finding something else was way too high.
Yeah, I'm not getting off the couch to change the VHS tape. I'll just sit through it.
Exactly. But today, if a celebrity starts lecturing me during an acceptance speech,
click,
I'm gone. I'm watching a guy build a log cabin in the woods on YouTube within 3 seconds. The switching cost is 0. And the source argues that celebrities and the industry haven't fully grasped this yet. They're acting like they still own the building, lecturing the tenants, not realizing they're on a month-to-month lease that's about to expire.
And when you click away, that attention doesn't just come back, does it?
No. That's the terrifying part for the emotional investment fades. Fans stop defending that celebrity in the comment sections. They stop caring about their upcoming projects. They stop buying the tickets. Goodwill, the source argues, doesn't refill automatically.
It's like a bank account. You make deposits with great movies and great songs. You make withdrawals every time you deliver a lecture.
And if you overdraw that account, it closes. And once the audience decides you aren't worth their time anymore, it is incredibly hard to win them back. Indifference is a wall that's almost impossible to climb.
So we have a quiet exit. We have the fragility of attention. This brings us to the final big piece of the puzzle, segment 5, the broken social contract. Because ultimately, the source argues that there is a deal, an unspoken deal, between the entertainer and the entertained.
And defining that deal is crucial to understanding why everyone's so frustrated. The relationship is a trade. It's a two-way street. The audience gives their attention, their money, and their loyalty.
And in exchange, the celebrity gives their talent, their creativity, and escape. Escape seems to be the operative word here.
It is the most valuable commodity that celebrity has to offer. And the source really emphasizes the life of the average listener or viewer. This is where the source gets quite empathetic toward the audience. They describe the average person as working hard, being tired, and dealing with what the source colorfully calls a garbage world.
I mean, that's relatable. They're dealing with bills, stress, traffic, the 24-hour news cycle, the grind.
Exactly. And the source uses the Super Bowl as the ultimate example of this powerful demand for escapism.
Paint that picture for us, based on the source.
The source describes millions and millions of people who have worked all week. They just want to sit down on a Sunday, drink a beer, eat some wings, watch the game, and be entertained for 4 or 5 hours. They just want a break.
It's a sacred window of time. It's the Sunday truth reality.
It is. A truce before they have to get up and go back to work on Monday morning. Yeah. And the contrast the source draws is so sharp. They do not want to be lectured during that window by someone who, after the event, is going to fly home in a private jet to sleep until noon on Monday.
It's that gap again, the difference between VIP reality and the work.
And when that gap between the preacher, the celebrity, and the audience gets too wide, the speeches stop sounding inspiring or brave. They start sounding smug.
And smugness is a killer. Nobody likes being talked down.
Especially not by someone living a life of unimaginable privilege and ease. It breaks the deal. The audience feels like, I paid you for a song and you gave me a sermon. It feels like a fundamental breach of contract.
Now, interestingly, the source doesn't just complain. It's not all doom and gloom. They actually offer an alternative path. They reference Bad Bunny and Billie Eilish again in the context of potential Super Bowl halftime show protest, and suggest that if they just followed some simple advice, the backlash might be much lower.
Yeah, and the advice is actually a quote from a surprisingly profound source, the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Bill and Ted! You're kidding.
Not at all. The very same. The source advises celebrities to live by their philosophy. Be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
It's so simple. It's almost laughable in its simplicity.
It is. But think about it. The argument is that if celebrities adopted that attitude, no judgment, just focus on entertainment and general kindness, the hostility would just evaporate. The audience isn't asking for perfection. They aren't asking for silent robot. They're just asking for respect for the deal.
Be excellent to each other. It's basically just don't be a jerk.
It is. And the source implies that the audience is actually very forgiving if they feel respected. But the moment the finger wagging starts, the respect is gone and the deal is off.
So let's try to pull all of this together for the outro. We've covered a lot of ground. What does this all mean for the future of Hollywood and fame in general?
Well, to summarize the source's ultimate conclusion, it's this. The audience hasn't changed. They're patient.
We still want the hits. We still want great movies and great songs.
We absolutely do. Fans still want great work. They want the albums. They want the performances. They are more than willing to admire the talent, but they are rejecting the guidance. They are saying, I love your acting, but I don't need your life advice.
It's a self-correction mechanism.
That is exactly how the source sees it. If the industry remembers that they are there to entertain, the relationship fixes itself. The deal is restored. But if they don't, if they double down on the lectures and the scolding,
the audience moves on.
The audience moves on to new creators who do understand the assignment. The ones on YouTube or TikTok who are just there to entertain and connect.
Which leaves us with the final, and I think a somewhat provocative thought for you to chew on. The source focuses so heavily on the fragility of stardom.
It raises a really big question for in an era of infinite content where you can watch literally anything else with a single click, is the celebrity lecture the fastest way to become obsolete?
It's a high-stakes gamble, isn't it? You are betting your entire career that your personal opinion is more valuable to your audience than your actual art.
And according to this source, for most celebrities, that is a losing bet. The math just doesn't work out anymore. The audience holds all the cards.
No judgment, here to entertain, be excellent to each other. It's a pretty good motto, regardless of your tax bracket.
I think so. It's a good rule for the dinner party, and it's a good rule for the Oscars. It might just save everyone a lot of awkward silence.
That's it for this deep dive into the celebrity credibility crisis. It's definitely something to think about the next time you star walk up to them. Are they going to thank their mom, or are they going to try to change the world in 60 seconds? And more importantly, will you keep watching?
Or will you just click away?
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next dive.